The week chugs on, and we still haven't heard anything about General Sergei Surovikin. Surovikin has a reputation for being brutal, the brutal general, and he was last seen at the time of Prigozhin's march into Moscow. He's got a very interesting background. He was a weapons dealer in the 1990s. He faced some charges. They were eventually dropped. And there's two reports. Number one is that he's not been seen since the 24th of June. That's a week ago now. And number two is a radio report from Echo Moskvy saying that he hasn't been in touch with his family since the 26th of June. That's a little bit more recently, but still, for somebody who was sort of ubiquitous, who was constantly on the media talking about the war, suddenly he's not around. Is he being held in some sort of isolation cell? Is he being held in a sort of cubicle, not able to lie down, being tortured on a daily basis, on an hourly basis? Here he was. Here is the general who was saying how inhumane, how vile, how ghastly is Ukraine, how fascistic, and yet now he is the one who's being tortured by the Russians. I think it's very credible. When Dmitry Peskov was asked about him, he didn't have anything to say, suggesting that, in fact, so where is Sergei Surovikin? Where is he? Well, and he doesn't have an answer. Why not? Because he's being held and tortured by the Kremlin. And now the problem is that he is supposedly, first of all, he's a friend of Prigozhin, and he is supposedly to have been in on the plot to march against the Kremlin, presumably to oust Putin ultimately, although Prigozhin says that his targets were Shoigu and Gerasimov. In fact, Prigozhin was quite specific about wanting to replace Gerasimov with General Militsev. And although Prigozhin said that no army personnel on the ground were killed, there were 5 helicopters shot down, 2 planes shot down. Prigozhin did damage, and he may now be hiding out in Belarus with his cadres, with his companions, with his colleagues, with his criminals. But his life is worth nothing, and all it needs is a cup of tea laced with Novichok, and we know how good the FSB is at delivering char. So either that or an umbrella stab or whatever. He isn't safe. He isn't safe, and he may be sort of avoiding top story windows, but I don't think that's going to save his life. He's not long for this world, and he will take the rap for the failure that is the Ukraine war, and so he's going to perform a valuable service to Mr. Putin in the end. Mr. Putin will never admit that he's made a mistake with this war, but it is a mistake, and as the days go by, it becomes even more of a mistake. And more than that, Prigozhin has now revealed that the war was not, as the Russian domestic propaganda says, the war is not a response to NATO threats. It's not a response to a fascistic brigade in Ukraine. That didn't exist. Certainly didn't exist until the real fascists, who were the Wagner brigade, predicated on fascism. They take their name from Richard Wagner because of its association, because of the way that Hitler loved Wagner. That's why they've got their name. The only fascists in this war, or the original fascists in this war, were the Wagner Brigade. And I think in the end, they will take the rap for the war. Putin won't have to apologize. Putin doesn't like to admit failure anyway. He also likes to surround himself with generals and military who are shorter than he is. Gerasimov, Shoigu, Surovikin, all tiny people, all tiny, and of course Tolstoy, the horrible man in the Duma who looks like a frog, not quite with pustules and warts, but he's growing into his persona by the day. So Surovikin almost certainly under torture, under threat, again like Prigozhin, not long for this world, and it's just a matter of working out what's going on next. Should we mourn the passing of Surovikin, this merciless individual, this messenger of death? I don't think so, really. I don't think so. But who's coming next?